Welcome, everyone. Today we're exploring an extraordinary historical figure, a leader whose decisions didn't just shape his own destiny, but, well, profoundly reshaped an entire continent.
We're talking about Kublai Khan.
Exactly. Our mission here is to uncover the most impactful insights, maybe some surprising facts about this historical giant. We want to reveal not just what he did, but the far-reaching consequences of his choices.
Right. So the big question is, how did one man manage to balance the traditions of a nomadic empire with, the complexities of settled governance?
And what can his story tell us about leadership? About cultural synthesis. Let's get started.
Okay.
Our journey with Kublai, it begins remarkably early. Born in 1215, he was, of course, a grandson of the legendary Genghis Khan.
Hmm.
There's this one striking detail from his childhood, from his first hunt in 1224. He was just 9.
Only 9?
Yeah. After he and his eldest brother made their first kills, Genghis Khan himself performs this Mongol tradition, smearing animal fat on Kublai's finger.
A significant ritual.
Very. And then he made a comment that really seems to hint at Kublai's future. He said, "The words of this boy Kublai are full of wisdom. Heed them well, heed them all of you."
Wow. Talk about high expectations for a 9-year-old. It's clear even then Genghis saw something special in Kublai. Maybe a political acumen, something beyond just battlefield skill.
That seems likely.
This early recognition, it really set a precedent. Then, after his father Tului died, Kublai got his own estate in Hebei. Initially, though, there was widespread local corruption, heavy taxation. It caused many Han peasants to just abandon their lands.
This would hit the revenue hard.
Exactly, directly impacting revenue. But Kublai's response was swift. He ordered reforms, got help from his mother, Surgatani Beki, to send in new officials, revise tax laws.
And did it work?
It did. It brought people back. This shows, an early grasp of effective governance, a pragmatic approach to administration, qualities that would be absolutely crucial later on.
What I found particularly striking about his early life is how deeply he engaged with Han Chinese culture. It wasn't just pragmatic adoption, it felt like he genuinely embraced aspects of it.
That's an excellent point.
What was driving that, do you think? And was that unusual for a Mongol leader back then?
Well, this early openness to diverse cultures, especially Han Chinese, was pivotal. It wasn't just about military might. The Mongols obviously had that in spades. It was about integrating different forms of knowledge, administration, even philosophy into his nascent administration.
So who did he bring in?
He invited Haiyun, a leading Buddhist monk, and later Liu Bingzheng, a really multifaceted scholar, painter, mathematician, to be his advisors.
Impressive range.
Absolutely. And he also made a point of employing people of other nationalities, always aiming to balance local and imperial interests. This whole foundational period, it truly prepared him for the huge task of governing what would essentially become a unified China.
Then his older brother Mengke became Khan in 1251, and he grants Kublai viceroyalty over northern China. And by all accounts, he managed his territory extremely well. Boosted agriculture, social welfare.
He really did seem to have a knack for it.
But things turned dramatic after Mengke's death in 1259. Kublai actually kept the death a secret for a bit.
Interesting tactic.
While continuing a campaign against the Song dynasty, he even secured a peace agreement with the Song minister Jia Sedao involving tribute. But then a critical message arrives from his wife, Chabi. It signaled major trouble back home.
Ah, yes. This brings us to a really crucial point about imperial succession, doesn't it? What happens when power isn't clearly transferred?
Exactly. Chaos.
Pretty much. Kublai's younger brother, Arik had already held a Kurultai, that's a great Mongol council, and claimed the title of Great Khan. He had the support of many of Genghis Khan's descendants.
So a contested claim from the start.
Very contested. Kublai and his other brother, Hulagu, who was the Khan ruling the Mongol Ilkhanate out in Persia, they opposed this. Kublai held his own Kurultai. And despite fewer royal family members attending, he was proclaimed Great Khan on April 15, 1260.
Which kicked off
The Tuluid Civil War. It lasted until 1264 and really marked the beginning of the division of the Mongol Empire. It was fierce. Armed conflict. It even saw Karakoram, the Mongol capital, destroyed.
Wow. So a period of intense strategic maneuvering then. We hear about his decisive moves like sending Lian Zixian to win over generals,
Hmm.
but he also faced big challenges. Betrayal from Jia Sedao, who broke his peace promise.
Right. That truce didn't last.
And then there's the detail about the Yizhou governor Li Tan revolting in 1262.
Yes, that revolt was significant.
After crushing it, Kublai apparently developed a deep distrust of ethnic Han warlords, so much so he banned granting them titles and tithes.
And this incident, it truly highlights the immense challenges of ruling such a vast, diverse empire.
You can see why.
I mean, while he had embraced aspects of Han culture and relied on Han advisors, the rebellion just underscored that persistent tension, the need for vigilance against potential local power bases.
Makes sense.
And furthermore, to fund this ongoing civil war, Kublai, in 1264, he even imposed land and commercial taxes on religious establishments. A bold move to secure finances during a critical time, but ultimately Ariq surrendered in August 1264.
Solidifying Kublai's position.
Solidifying Kublai's hard-won position as Khagan, yes.
So, after such a contested path to power, how did he manage to pivot? How did he go from civil war to successfully establishing the Yuan dynasty and really consolidating power over China? What were the immediate hurdles?
Well, that's where his strategic genius really comes into play. In 1271, Kublai officially created the Yuan dynasty. He explicitly claimed orthodox succession from prior Chinese dynasties.
That's a big statement.
A huge statement. He then moved his capital to Dadu, modern-day Beijing.
Right.
And he became the first non-Han emperor to rule all of China proper after finally completing the conquest of the Song dynasty in 1279 at the Battle of Yama.
The end of the song.
The very end. This move was transformative. Kublai clearly saw China as his primary base, and he concentrated his efforts on governing there.
How did he do that effectively?
He strategically adopted Chinese political and cultural models.
Oh.
He relied on Han Chinese advisors like Lu Bingxiong and Zhu Heng, even Buddhist Uyghurs.
Interesting mix.
Very. And he also set up a Supreme Control Commission under the prominent Sakya-lama Drogen Chogyal Phagpa. This essentially created a centralized religious authority to oversee Buddhist monks.
So, religious patronage, but also control.
Exactly. It demonstrated his patronage, yes, but also his innovative willingness to integrate diverse power structures into his governance.
His economic policies during this period, they seem particularly noteworthy.
They really were.
He promoted growth, rebuilt the Grand Canal, repaired public buildings, extended highways.
Yeah.
Standard empire building stuff, maybe.
To some extent, yes, vital infrastructure work.
But then there's this move that stands out. Incredibly innovative, but as you said, ultimately problematic, creating the first unified paper currency, Joko, in 1260.
Revolutionary for its time. Absolutely revolutionary.
How did it work initially?
Initially, the currency was convertible. You could exchange it for silver and gold. Taxes could even be paid in it.
Okay, sounds stable enough.
But to fund the incredibly costly Song conquest, he issued new state-sponsored bills in 1273.
More money printing.
Exactly. And he even went so far as to confiscate gold and silver from private citizens to force the use of his paper money.
Wow.
This makes him, as some historians note, the first fiat moneymaker, basically creating currency whose value is based on government decree, not direct backing by precious metals.
Which sounds modern, but risky.
Extremely risky. And the critical lesson emerged pretty quickly. A lack of fiscal discipline eventually led to rampant inflation, an economic disaster.
So a cautionary tale even then.
A powerful, timeless lesson. Even groundbreaking ideas like fiat currency demand strict fiscal discipline. Otherwise, they risk spiraling into chaos. Kublai learned the hard way that printing money without restraint leads to hyperinflation. It's a warning echoed throughout history.
Beyond the economy, though, he also actively encouraged arts and religious tolerance.
He did.
We hear about his respect for the Taoist master Zhang Lushan, even despite some earlier anti-Taoist edicts.
Showing a level of flexibility, perhaps.
And of course, there's the famous account from Marco Polo, the Italian explorer who served as a foreign emissary, lived in the emperor's lands for 17 years.
Right, chronicling so much of what we think we know.
His accounts are crucial.
What really stands out here, though, is the sheer multiculturalism of his court and his administration. He patronized Muslim scholars and scientists.
Oh, interesting. In what fields?
They made significant contributions in astronomy, cartography, medicine, mathematics. They even invented the Muslim trebuchet used in battle.
A siege engine.
Precisely. We find records that 30 Muslims served as high officials, including governors, in 8 of the 12 administrative districts.
That's significant representation.
It really is. This level of cross-cultural exchange and technological advancement during his reign is truly remarkable. It speaks volumes about his pragmatic leadership. He understood that knowledge, wherever it came from, was a valuable asset for his empire.
So with such a powerful, expanding empire, Kublai naturally started looking beyond China's borders.
Ambition tends to do that.
This led to some of his most famous military ventures, also some of his most challenging ones.
Definitely challenging.
We learn about multiple campaigns into places like Vietnam, Burma, Java.
Mhm.
These often secured vassal status, it seems, but they definitely came at a high cost. Resources, lives.
And these campaigns, they really emphasized the limits of even a great empire. His 2 attempts to invade Japan in 1274 and 1281, they're prime examples.
The famous kamikaze incidents.
Well, partly. The accounts detail these enormous fleets, 900 ships the first time, an incredible 3,500 ships with 100,000 troops the second time.
Staggering numbers.
But they were partly thwarted by bad weather, yes, but also flawed ship design. There's a suggestion Kublai rushed the construction, maybe used riverboats that just weren't suited for the open ocean.
So not just divine winds.
Not just divine wind. And the Japanese samurai, though outnumbered, they had fortified coasts. They fought as a united formation using exploding missiles, not just individual combat.
Adapting to the threat.
Exactly. The Japan invasions didn't just end in military failure. They profoundly redefined the limits of Mongol power. They showed that even the most formidable land army could be stopped by naval challenges, by environmental factors, by an adapting enemy. It shattered that myth of Mongol invincibility in East Asia.
Force a reevaluation.
A serious reevaluation of imperial overreach, yes.
The Vietnam invasions also present a really fascinating sort of nuanced outcome.
They do.
Some scholars apparently label them a success because they established tributary relations,
Right.
despite the fact the Mongols suffered major military defeats on the ground.
It's a complex picture. Success wasn't always outright conquest.
We also see him maintaining close relations with Siam, forcing tribute from Cambodia after their king initially refused, and even imprisoned Mongol envoys.
He didn't take kindly to defiance.
Apparently not. He even sent envoys way out to Mogadishu in Africa, which shows the truly global reach of his interests, though that initial delegation got imprisoned too.
Yes, these foreign relations, these military campaigns, they highlight that dual nature of his ambition. On one hand, expand influence, secure tribute, but also to open crucial trade routes, foster diplomatic connections. For instance, direct contact between East Asia and Europe was firmly established under Kublai's reign.
How so?
It was greatly facilitated by Mongol control of those Central Asian trade routes and their highly efficient postal services, the YAM system.
Ah, the postal relays.
Exactly. The journey of Rabban Barsama, he was an ambassador from Kublai and the Ilkhan Argun, traveling all the way from Dadu to Rome, Paris, Bordeaux. It's an incredible testament to this unprecedented global connectivity.
It really shows how Kublai's realm was opening up the world in new ways.
Absolutely. His desire for an expansive, connected realm had far-reaching effects.
But, as often happens with influential rulers, Kublai's later years seem marked by significant personal loss and a decline in health.
Sadly, yes. After his beloved wife Chabi died in 1281.
A key advisor and partner, wasn't she?
Very much so. And then his chosen heir, Zenjin, died tragically in 1286. Kublai became increasingly despondent.
Understandable.
He reportedly turned to food and drink for comfort, suffered badly from gout and diabetes, and kind of withdrew from direct contact with his advisors. He started relying instead on his queen, Nambui, to issue instructions.
That must have impacted governance.
It raises that crucial question for any leader, doesn't it? How do personal losses, declining health, impact your ability to govern effectively?
Definitely.
His health issues, combined with those military failures in Vietnam and Japan, they clearly took a significant toll on his spirit, on his direct involvement.
Did he seek treatment?
Oh yes, he tried various medical treatments, Korean shamans, Vietnamese doctors, but, well, to no avail.
But he did sort out the succession.
He did. Before his passing, he ensured the line would continue. He recognized Zenjin's son, Timur, passed the seal of crown prince to him.
So ensuring stability, at least.
Trying to, yeah.
Kublai Khan passed away in 1294. He was 78. His body was taken to the traditional burial place of the Khans in Mongolia.
The end of an era.
Truly.
Yeah.
So looking back at his entire life, his reign, what really stands out about his enduring legacy?
Well, his seizure of power back in 1260, it profoundly shifted the Mongol Empire. Yes, it did accelerate its eventual disunity, but it also formalized the identification of the Mongol-ruled realm as China.
A fundamental shift in identity.
A fundamental shift. He was largely responsible for recreating a unified, militarily powerful China after centuries of fragmentation. And the Yuan rule of Tibet, Manchuria, Mongolia, all governed from Beijing. That set a significant precedent.
For later dynasties.
Absolutely, particularly the Qing dynasty. It directly influenced China's modern borders. His reign brought the Mongol Empire to international attention, facilitated these unprecedented global connections, opened up vast networks for trade and exchange. The implications for the world were huge.
Kublai Khan, a figure of really immense contrasts, isn't he?
Absolutely.
A Mongol warrior who becomes a Chinese emperor, a conqueror who fosters cultural exchange, a visionary who faced personal tragedy and significant military setbacks.
A complex figure, no doubt.
His story is just such a powerful exploration of leadership, of adaptation, of that complex interplay between different civilizations. We hope this exploration has given you a clearer understanding of this pivotal historical figure and maybe something to think about. In what ways do leaders today, spanning different cultures, different systems, how do they navigate that tension between tradition and innovation, much like Kublai Khan did?
It's a timeless challenge.
What lessons can we draw from his successes and maybe his challenges in building and maintaining such a vast, diverse realm? Something to ponder.